A while back, I played Pikmin Squared, which was a full remake of Pikmin 1 inside of Pikmin 2's engine made by Pikhacker. We played through the full 2 main campaigns of the mod, and it was a delightful experience. It's Pikmin 1, but the Pikmin aren't complete plonkers, and there are basically zero weird glitches and quirks, along with having much more intuitive control systems for things like bomb rocks and swapping your Pikmin types while throwing, which you couldn't do in the original release of Pikmin 1. Along with that, this mod also has a fully custom campaign starring Louis with entirely new maps and enemies. I'd probably say that this is the definitive way to play Pikmin 1 and is much better than both of Nintendo's remasters. Now, we did complete almost everything, but there was one thing that I saved for later, and that was the randomizer. I did do a quick run through the randomizer, but that was with only some of the settings turned on, leading to a somewhat normal experience. Nothing too crazy, just some jumbled up enemies and parts. However, playing the randomizer with every setting turned on is a completely different story. The game goes from looking like this to looking like this. It's complete chaos, which is why I saved it for another video. The maps go from looking pretty normal with a few different enemies scattered about to looking like bacteria in a 6-month-old petri dish. This is obviously going to be a very tough time, and as always, before we delve into this, be sure to subscribe for high quality Pikmin videos weekly. Also, thank you for Meme Lord for doing the thumbnail for this video, and also our previous Pikmin Squared video. Be sure to follow him, links in description and pinned comment. I did say the randomizer has settings, and we should probably go through those so we know what challenges we will face in our journey. First off is random ship part order and treasured ship parts. These two kinda cancel each other out slightly. The first one juggles the order of the ship parts, and the other setting turns them into various treasures from Pikmin 2. The order being juggled doesn't matter too much with the treasure setting turned on, as they're already going to be really random. Change onion order is pretty self-explanatory, it just changes the order in which you find the Pikmin types. More enemies lets the game spawn in enemies from Pikmin 2 and Louis' quest, which means we have the potential to see some really threatening foes such as the Gatling Groink, Water Wraith, or the segmented Crobster in our run. Random enemy stats randomizes some of the enemies' stats such as health, and also causes their mod to be randomly scaled up or down. Open progression allows you to select any area except for the final one right from the start. Randomized Pikmin design changes the Pikmin's color and size, which can make them pretty hard to recognize, but aside from that, it doesn't change much. Randomized music is pretty self-explanatory, it randomizes the music. Purple and white Pikmin allow you to receive those two types via candy pop buds, and turning this on is basically required if you're playing with Pikmin 2 enemies due to the poison hazard. Heavyweight mode doubles the weight of every object, along with doubling the health of every gate and bridge. Shorter days shortens the days to only last around 9 minutes instead of 13. Starving Pikmin gives you half the amount of seeds from every corpse, making growing Pikmin much harder. And the final setting we are playing with is the Chaos Randomizer, which adds varying weather effects to the maps, which cycle every few days. That's the rundown of what we are dealing with, and it's a pretty big step up from vanilla Pikmin 1's randomizer, where all that was happening was the enemies and parts were shuffled. There is only one setting I'm not playing with, and that is the Iron Min Challenge, which is because I don't think it's compatible with all of the other settings. The gist of it is that you are only allowed 50 of the 3 types and can't grow any more. But the problem is that with the other settings, we could potentially be locked out of watership parts due to the weight changes, making the game impossible. Worsened by the fact that if you turn this setting on with all the other settings, you actually only get 30 of each type. Unless I play the mod Debtless, which is hard for reasons you might not even know about now, and get some extremely lucky rolls on water parts, I don't think having this setting turned on is feasible at all. Anyways, now it's time to delve into the Kaizo randomizer. For about 2 minutes, because my first attempt is a complete failure. Why? I chose to land in the impact side, which is usually the very first area. Before this mod came out, there were a few testing clips showcasing the Chaos Randomizer, and every time I briefly watched them, they did not land in the impact size, usually opting to go to the Forest Naval instead, and I always said to myself, why are you doing that? The first one is the first area, you have to do it first! Well, it turns out I was a complete fucking dunce, because going to the impact site first is an absolutely horrible idea for several reasons. First of all, this area gives you a warm welcome that is about as warm as getting your head caved in with an ice pick. You just immediately get jumped with zero space to run to. Second of all, the reason we are getting jumped is because of how the Kaizo randomizer spawns in enemies. Usually small, weak enemies that were in the original map placement will get randomized to be replaced with other small, weak enemies, and so on and so forth for things like bigger enemies and bosses. The Kaizo Randomizer shoves this concept up its hole of heroes, and anyone and everyone can spawn anywhere. Without all of the settings turned on, the map usually looks like this and is much easier to deal with and is a pretty good starting point. But here we have stuff like an Emperor Bulblax right by the onion. Third of all, you start off with one Pikmin with basically no chance to grow up anymore. Even if there's a really weak enemy near us like these wall poles, we can't carry them due to their waste being doubled. And if this one pathetic morsel gets touched by anything, it's over and we are straight on to day 2. The only way we could theoretically grow up more Pikmin is by turning our one blue Pikmin into a purple Pikmin, and then clearing out most of the starting area with all of these various enemies in around 9 minutes. Just so we can safely grow up some Pikmin, assuming doing all of that with one purple didn't cause the timer to run out. As you can see, going to the impact site is really impractical. Out of the 3 other areas we can access, the Distant Spring has no onions that are unlocked there, so we'd have 0 Pikmin. The Forest of Hope does have an onion, but there's a big fuck off wall that Olimar can't break, so our only option left is the Forest Naval, which does have an accessible onion and is easier compared to the impact site. Easier is definitely relative, however, as this place is still a complete mess. But at least the section near the onion doesn't have as high as an enemy density, making it more tangible to grow Pikmin. Unfortunately, the onion, which gives us a blue Pikmin, has 3 enemies near us, but the only real threatening one is this creeping chrysanthemum. So as long as we do not wake him up, we should be fine. Okay. I decide to scope out the area for a short while, and I notice a Pearly Clamp who should give us 25 Pikmin if killed, and could be carried with 1 purple, so if we get that, it would be ideal. Our blue Pikmin also almost gets blown up by a volatile Dweevil, but this Tron to a ledge saves him, allowing us to continue on with for fuck's sake. Yeah, no matter what area you go to, all 2 of them, day 1 is still really rough, and there's very little room for error. You know what, I'm happy enough we even unlocked Pikmin, let's move on from day 1 and go on to day 2. I decide to land in the Forest of Hope, and we got a pretty alright starting area filled with relatively weak enemies, which Olimar can easily beat to death on his own. The only really bad thing here is an Emperor Bulblax, who is positioned very awkwardly next to this Queen Candy Pop Bud. You might have seen some Queen Candy Pop Buds in the footage and said, why not use those to grow up more Pikmin like they usually do in Pikmin 2? The reason I didn't use them for that is because they've been changed. Instead of giving you more Pikmin, they now only allow you to infinitely convert your Pikmin into a different type. I use it here to switch my one blue Pikmin into a purple Pikmin that is red, as if they haven't stolen enough from the red Pikmin already. These guys will be good for their great combat abilities, and they are crucial here because they are actually capable of carrying the heavier corpses and allowing us to get a rather pitiful Pikmin count. Due to the seed nerfs, the simple task of getting more Pikmin is an absolute chore. We collect 7 enemy corpses and get a whopping 14 total Pikmin on the field. Yeah, getting more Pikmin is certainly going to be rough. It's also worth mentioning that the randomizer lets you use the pluck phone immediately, which is convenient. And after growing up some Pikmin, it's time to engage in the simple and relaxing task of breaking down a wall. We're only on day 2, and this game won't give me a break, a Gatling Groink already. I guess on the bright side, due to explosions getting changed to work like Pikmin 1, this guy is actually able to break the wall for us, which saves some time. Because this is a randomizer, the enemy layouts don't have much cohesion behind them. Actually, no, scratch that, this fucking randomizer could sometimes cook up enemy layouts so devious that even if you got a full team of people to brainstorm for 2 weeks, they couldn't come up with stuff like this. We have the aforementioned Gatling Groink, an enemy that shoots missiles and follows you, chained into Bulbman, who came out of somewhere and is another enemy that follows you. At least if you kill it, you get some Bulbman, a type of Pikmin immune to every hazard, and of course, one of them immediately gets blown to pieces. You do not get to keep them, you can only use them the day you get them, unless you turn them into another Pikmin type with a Candy Pop Bud. You think we'd be free to just kill the Gatling Groink now, but no, we immediately start getting harassed by a greater spotted Jellyfloss. An enemy with really high health, and he's making dodging the Groink's missiles much harder, along with us having to kill him after defeating the Groink, which gives the Groink ample time to let his health restore after death. And if you didn't know, the Gatling Groinks can come back to life after they've been killed. There is also an Antenna Beetle who could also distract our Pikmin and potentially lead them into danger, and he was also taking up too much space while fighting the other enemies. Now thankfully after that ordeal, a giant bread bug did take the Gatling Groink's corpse away and despawn us. But he did also take away every other corpse we could have used to make more Pikmin while we were fighting those other enemies. So we basically did not get rewarded for this fight at all. Absolutely horrific enemy lineup. That's like 5 separate enemies that got spawned in that somehow all comboed with each other. Also, all of that took up a good chunk of time for today, meaning we basically got nothing done for today and couldn't even reap the rewards of our fights. I turned my Bulbmin into more purple Pikmin and some white Pikmin who are known for being fast and immune to poison. And while we're at it, we can at least try to move our first ship part closer to the ship and get some progress done. Okay game, I get the hint. I mentioned weather effects at the start of the video and now they are popping up. We had a clear day for the past 2 days, but now we have our first weather effect in the Forest of Hope. Today's weather is the snap. What the fuck is the snap? That isn't weather. Oh, and look at that, it's perfectly sunny outside and there are no weather effects, so I don't know what the snap was meant to be, but this day will end up being pretty normal. Our goal is to unlock yellows or whatever will be spawned in, and maybe collect 1 or 2 ship parts. We meet a hairy Bulborb and an armored Cannonbeal next to each other. Fighting them both could be hard with our low numbers, so we can use the Cannonbeal's boulders to kill the Bulborb. Okay, apparently his boulders evaporate into thin air unless they are fired directly at me, so forget our old plan, we have to kill them off one by one, which wastes more time. What is going on over there? Is that the snap? Probably best to steer clear of there. Well, we are finally able to start breaking down the gate that lets us access the yellow onion, and I would like to collect the armored Cannonbeal, as even with the nerf seeds, he should give us a good few Pikmin. But he weighs a whopping 60 Pikmin, so we'll need a few more purples to slowly carry him back, which we can get at the base. We've also steadily been able to increase our Pikmin numbers all the way up to 37, which normally wouldn't be much, but due to all the rules this randomizer imposes on us, this is actually a sizable amount that took a while to get up to, and we should finally be able to get the ball rolling faster now. Oh, it's a reference to Thanos snap. Good thing we grew up all of those Pikmin and got all those purples, huh? That stung. I thought we were finally getting somewhere, but then the game takes it away at the snap of a finger. Well, the wall is down and we get to the onion, which turns out to have yellow Pikmin, which are giant and cyan. It seems the onion randomization was the least important part of this challenge, as it just put them in the usual order. We can also now use bomb rocks because we have yellow Pikmin, who are the only types that can carry it in this game. The Cannonbeal's corpse is still there, and after going to get purples for the second time, we can bring it back to the yellow onion and get some Pikmin, boosting our numbers to 46, which slightly makes up for whatever happened earlier. And after that, we are out of time. It has been 3 days, and we still haven't collected a single ship part, so we can probably turn this around the next day here. Back to the Forest of Hope, today's weather effect is the snap. Nope, we're going to the Forest Naval. It's a clear day in the Forest Naval, and the landing base actually doesn't even seem that bad for once. There's a nice swarm of butterflies we can use to get more Pikmin, and a Bulborb who we can immediately kill. Let's get our blue Pikmin out and deal with him. I've had enough. The only thing consistent in this fucking randomizer is the comedic timing. Writing the script for this video isn't hard when the game is making 80% of the punchlines for me. Literally all of my writing here is just what I said to myself while playing the game, thinking I finally had a break, only to get the snap that kills everybody. Oh, and no, the base isn't nice. Fucking everyone is here, including the Led Zeppelin from Led Zeppelin. Why is he so big? The Mama Sheer Grub from Pikmin 4 is here. You weren't even in the mod. Where are you coming from? I guess the good thing about this enemy spawn is our Pikmin numbers are finally going up somewhat, and we also got a Pearly Clam spawned in, which gives us a free 25 Pikmin. Unfortunately, due to the enemy spam and reduced time limit, we don't really have a chance to get any ship parts again, so growing our numbers is our main goal. The music randomization made the Forest Naval's theme be the map select song, which on its own and in the actual context of where it should be playing is a great song, but hearing it on a loop here where it doesn't fit at all gets pretty annoying. After a long, and I mean long, amount of time spent fighting off enemies, we get our total Pikmin count up to 95, which is pretty good. A slight downside to Bulbmin is that they count towards the Pikmin count in the field, even if you haven't gotten them yet. We can currently only have 80 Pikmin out now until we get the Bulbmin. This could be troublesome if there's like 5 Bulbmin spawned in the middle of nowhere where we won't ever find them, and we'll be stuck with like 50 Pikmin. I managed to break down one bridge, not the other one because a Gatling Groink and a Fiery Bulblax are right next to us, and I go exploring for a small bit because we are running out of time. I decide to turn my recently found Bulbmin, who were found after Olimar fatally punched their parental figure / guardian to death, into normal Pikmin that I can keep and accidentally end up unlocking red Pikmin while doing this, who are purple. I didn't even know that their candy pop buds would spawn in since we haven't unlocked them yet. Anyways, we run out of time and still after 4 days we have 0 ship parts. Well, for some good news, the Forest of Hope isn't experiencing any weird weather effects, and when we land there, the red onion is just sitting there waiting for us, despite us only unlocking red Pikmin and not the onion. It's a nice surprise. It means we have less work to do in the impact site whenever we decide to land there. We finally also get a manageable enemy layout today, along with having enough Pikmin to do stuff more efficiently. One of the things you really can't do in this randomizer though is multitask, as leaving your Pikmin alone to do something is like letting your 5-year-old child in his little tight car ride down the autobahn. We're going to be keeping a close eye on our Pikmin squad at all times and ensure they stick with us. We are also finally able to collect some ship parts after 5 days, starting with this jewel that was being guarded by a big bully who shoved our Pikmin off this ledge after I threw them onto us, but aside from that he was harmless. A careening Dirigibug right by our base might seem very intimidating if you're familiar with them in Pikmin 2. But if you remember the last video, these guys are actually very nice and are our best friends for this randomizer. The bombs they throw don't go off, and yellow Pikmin can use them, so they're basically just free bomb rock generators, and it's a good idea to spare these guys and utilize their bomb rocks to break down the walls. Remember, for this randomized run, every gate has twice its health, meaning you need twice the amount of bomb rocks to break down stone gates. The one near our base usually needs 3 bomb rocks, but now it needs 6, so yeah, the Dirigibugs are really helpful here. I was going to collect this ship part that needs these bridges built to get it, but I changed plans slightly after a golden opportunity opened up. There's this ledge here that has 3 boss fights, and it usually takes a bit of time to get there, and we would probably have to fight off all 3 bosses if we aren't lucky. But this armored cannon beetle accidentally fell off the ledge. I don't know how he managed that, but it let us fight him in the water immediately and collect the ship part from him, saving a humongous amount of time, bomb rocks, and Pikmin deaths. This is probably the first day where we actually got lucky and didn't have any major mishaps, and we were able to collect a total of 3 ship parts, and due to our larger Pikmin numbers, we should be getting these much faster. It's another clear day in the Forest of Hope, but it seems our good luck is running out, so we immediately start getting attacked 15 frames into the day, which is a good sign, and this starting base has a hairy Bulborb, who shouldn't be a problem if we kill him before he wakes up. Okay, Grace. Didn't even know what happened until I looked back at the footage, but a Metite grazed him for a millisecond and woke him up. Oh, and also a cannonball larva who was set up like a sniper and can freely take pot shots at us. Thankfully, there is a bit of space to avoid this. Oh. It's the Gulix. Absolutely not a Tread and Vanilla Pikmin one, an absolute nightmare if it spawns in during a randomizer. It's basically a big impenetrable barrier that chases you, only blue Pikmin can go through him and he will knock back Olimar on contact, along with making non-blue Pikmin drown. The death timer for non-insta-kill hazards here is 2 seconds, which is the harshest in the series and doesn't mix well with the Gulix. I tried to lead him into another open space to kill him, and you can already tell what happened there, so I tried to ignore him for now and clear off the rest of the base until he decides to follow me home. I had to fight him next to the onion, which meant a lot of accidental menu opens instead of throwing Pikmin. He's eventually dead, but that whole ordeal, which happened before I could even get fucking ready, wasted too much time, so there's not much wriggle room to explore what's beyond the stone gates. This section here wasn't really hard, but clearing off the enemies here wasted most of our time. The worst enemies spawned in here were bumbling snitchbugs, an enemy from Pikmin 2 that holds your captain hostage and makes your full squad just idle on the floor. It's worse here than in Pikmin 2 because you don't have a second captain that can come and bail you out, so you're stuck with just the one, and if he grabs you at a bad spot, it won't take long for your numbers to start plummeting. We break down this bramble wall with the help of our Dirigibug friends, but there is a stone wall nearby that usually needs 9 bomb rocks, but now it will need 18 bomb rocks. It would be nice to try and will that down a little. Oh great, a Gatling okay, I fucking get it, you don't want me to go down there. The worst setting this randomizer has is the short days. I know going from 13 to 9 minutes doesn't seem that drastic, but that 4-minute loss absolutely devastates your run if you get a bad enemy layout, because there is basically 0 breathing room to collect any parts. It's another day where we got 0 parts, most because that time was spent just dealing with brutal enemies, and with that 4 minutes we probably could have gotten at least 1 or maybe 2. It's day 7 and I'm milking the Forest of Hope dry until the weather isn't clear, so we are back there yet again. How many fucking Gulixes are we gonna spawn in? I literally have just landed and haven't even got my second type of Pikmin out yet, and there's a Gulix at the base along with homing boulders straight out of Tokyo Drift. How are they getting that far? Also, the developers of this mod added back that Easter egg that a good 4 people saw in the original Pikmin 1, where some small enemies would get flattened by boulders, showcasing the great level of detail put into this mod. The absolute worst enemy for the randomizer is showing up, and that is the decorated cannon beetle. This guy is from Louie's quest, and his gimmick is to attack him. You need to lead his boulder to a small part of his back, which will cause him to open his shell. This was already pretty hard to pull off in the original fight, but you just straight up can't kill him in the randomizer. There's basically never any space to actually pull this off. Especially here when he's in this dense hallway. Along with that, this guy's homing boulders do not break off of walls, making them way worse. He's just an absolute death sentence if he gets spawned in. I'd actually rather have the smoky prog show up. Speaking of which, the smoky prog only spawns in egg form, which is why he hasn't shown up at all, compared to actual Pikmin 1's randomizer where he would show up every 5 minutes. I decided to go down here to unlock the boss arena and collect one ship part that's located here. I put my Pikmin on the ship part and went to destroy the boss gate, and as you can see, the boss is a ranging Bloister. For some reason, I decided to go over here past the cannon beetle, and I can't remember why, and he just blocks me. I can't leave. While I'm stuck, a Mama Sheargrub kills a few of my Pikmin carrying the parts, and the ranging Bloister goes over to the gate and starts eating Pikmin through the wall. And I cannot do anything about this because I'm stuck, and a good few Pikmin die. I don't get how I'm able to slip past him perfectly normal the first time, but when I have to leave to save my Pikmin, I just can't get through him. We did get that one part from before, but not the boss one, because fighting the Raging Bloister, a boss that was designed with 2 captains in mind, with 1 captain is slow and tedious, so we just run out of time. Not a very good layout today. Day 8 begins, and it's another clear day, and we're getting harassed by boulders again. The armored cannon beetle, of course, fails to shoot any boulders that aren't directly going to kill my Pikmin, and prevents me from making an Abraham Lincoln assassination joke. The boss for today is the Flathead Longlegs, who I decide to kill by not acknowledging his existence. Mom, Dad, an Emperor Bulblax! That's right, an Emperor Bulblax from Pikmin 2. Yeah, he's pretty easy. There were no careening Dirigibugs near us, so dealing with the stone wall was basically impossible, and this part here had a decorated cannon beetle and a puffy blowhog near us. Absolutely vile combo, not helped by the blowhog being a little bitch and camping out of bounds. I also avoided the bridge ship part for the specific reason of hearing boss music, but I think I was just starting to go fucking nuts. There wasn't any boss music playing at all. Well, we got one ship part today, pretty sloppy, and I was starting to get sick of the Garden of Hope, and I'd also grown up a pretty decent supply of blue Pikmin, so I decided to set my sights on the Distant Spring. The Distant Spring has one big advantage over the other areas, and that is that the enemies aren't as densely packed and there are no Peliposes, which is usually a slight downside for the player, but here it's great because no Peliposes means no shit like this. Of course, none of that matters if the game is going to put a decorated cannon beetle right by our base on high ground, which it did. Traversing this area is much easier due to there being less enemies, and we are actually able to immediately get to work on ship parts this time. And while the cannon beetle was inconvenient, he'd thankfully often be lost in his own world, and we could mostly ignore him. But I would keep my Pikmin away from base just in case he got any ideas. The music for this area was the map select theme, this time for Louie's quest, but I didn't mind this time because it's actually kind of a bop. I slept on it the first playthrough. This ended up being a rare normal day where not too much interesting happened, and we were actually able to get 3 ship parts and do a bit of damage to a stone gate. Which would be an okay day in regular Pikmin, but here it's an absolute fucking miracle. It's also good to kill some enemies if you have the time, because enemies that normally despawn for a few days will still despawn for the randomizer, so if something easy is there you can kill it to prevent something bad from showing up. Are the Viet Cong designing these levels? We aren't even going to have the enemies be clearly displayed anymore, they're just going to pop out of seemingly nowhere to ambush me. Well, we're on day 10 now, which is a third of the day count, and we only have 8 parts, so we'll have to start picking up the slack. You know you are starting to get desensitized when a Gatling Groink being right at your base isn't even surprising or bad anymore. I break down the stone wall here and... okay, sorry for not finding the first Gatling Groink that bad. The game puts in 3 of them here, and their respawn mechanic makes them pretty annoying for this randomizer because you just get a Wario Land level timer every time you kill one, and have to drag him back immediately. Also, I specifically complimented the fact that the game didn't randomize the candy pop buds needed for puzzles in my previous video, but what the fuck happened? How am I meant to do this puzzle without my flower? We're gonna have to drown some yellow Pikmin over there in order to complete that puzzle, and because we'll be needing yellows for a few puzzles, I started to grow up their numbers today as they were pretty low, and also completed this puzzle, which thankfully spawned in a lice basal cap. The other puzzle had the big stupid compass, which weighs 40 Pikmin now, so that's not good. For the last bit of the day, I break down some walls and get to work on these bridges that you need to build to get a parse. Pretty standard stuff for today, and I could have gone a bit faster. While the distant spring is usually the hardest area in the normal game, here it's actually pretty nice compared to the other areas. We have the first weather effect in a while for day 11, the distant spring is experiencing the darkness. I was worried that it would severely alter the lighting, like that one shitty Rayman level nobody likes, but no, it's just nighttime lighting, and I think it spawns in more threatening enemies because the Gatling, Groink, and Decorated Cannonball were everywhere. And the Groinks decide to give me a very brief lesson on why you don't let your Pikmin idle away from you. That was a good chunk of my purple Pikmin too. After finishing the bridge ship part, the rest of the area is basically impossible to explore because the Cannonballs decide to have a family reunion and clog up the whole map with boulders, along with several decorated Cannonballs who are blocking key carrying routes, which I will remind you are virtually unkillable in this mod. I decided to fight the boss, which was the segmented Crobster, who is pretty tough, but compared to what we've been dealing with, a standalone Crobster isn't that bad. Well, he wasn't exactly on his own. A Wollihop decided to join the arena and didn't do much aside from kidnap a good few Pikmin after the fight was complete. That probably was actually the most troublesome bit of the fight. Not just the Wollihop, but the segmented Crobster just kept chucking Pikmin out of the arena, and it was pretty awkward to try and get them back. I was not able to get the part back to the ship after beating him because the area is an absolute mess, but we did kill the boss, which is the most important bit. Horrible layout overall. It's day 12 now, and we aren't doing all that good. A piece of information I learned from my randomizer attempt in the previous video is that the randomization is permanent, which is unlike most randomizers. If I go to the Forest of Hope on day 3, then reset the game and go back there, the layout will be the exact same. Now, I don't want to exploit this, but I don't think there's anything wrong with now trying to check out several areas, as we can't really afford to have too many wasted days anymore. So from now on, instead of sticking with the first area I select, I'll be looking through a few of them to see which one will be the best. Oh yeah, and speaking of wasted days, we didn't do anything for day 12. All 4 maps had the worst layouts known to man, and frankly it would have been more resourceful to just not attempt any of them at all. But that doesn't mean I didn't try. All of these were mostly due to the decorated Cannonball being spawned in an excessive amount, along with stuff like the Forest of Hope having a weather effect called mating season, which is just this. The impact side is still just as bad as ever. We are getting followed before we even load in. One decorated Cannonball directly at base, firing boulders at us. Another one blocking the ship part and carrying routes, along with his boulders also being able to reach base. And another one spawned in as the one containing the second ship part, where the terrain will make him basically impossible to kill. There just isn't any winning here. And it's not like the rest of the enemies spawned in are any better. I just decided to skip straight to day 13 in hopes of getting a better layout for any area. Starting on day 13, I'm also doing routine checkups on the impact size. Yeah, no thanks. I went back to the distant spring to collect the 2 parts in the section, and it was a remarkably normal day. I'd say the worst things I got spawned in were a fiery snitch bug, which made me have to go back to get red Pikmin, and an Emperor Bullblax who blended in surprisingly well, but both of those aren't even that bad. Today's weather was Earthquake, which causes an earthquake to happen and knock your Pikmin to the floor momentarily. The name Earthquake made it sound much worse than what it actually was. It doesn't even knock down Pikmin carrying things, so yeah, it's quite minor. There weren't even any funny moments today. At least we only have 3 parts left here. How's the impact site looking? Back at the distant spring, which has clear weather, and it's another mostly normal day. I can read this randomizer like a book now. I already know this guy was going to be doing some bullshit with his boulders, so I got out of the way, and lo and behold, I'm right. Nothing too interesting happened today. I collected the segmented Crobster's ship part that we never retrieved, and went over here to get these castanets that are locked behind a pretty easy puzzle. But then when it was getting collected, another big bully blew my Pikmin away, and I decided to just give up. We'll have to go back here anyway, so it doesn't matter if it's right by base. I wanted to attempt the dreaded yellow puzzle, but we simply didn't have time. Which is a shame, as at least getting the ship part down with yellows would have been really convenient. It's now day 15 and the impact site is looking pretty good. Well, at least it's looking good for the impact site standards. Saying it's good is like saying a restaurant has vastly improved because there is actually a bit of soup in the bowl of flies this time. It's not the worst selection of enemies and the usual suspects aren't here, but it's not very fun either, and the opening area is still absolutely clogged with enemies and it takes ages to make any progress. You'd usually be able to fully wrap up this area in half a day, maybe even less, but here it takes a full day just to get one parse and break open one gate. I'd say the worst thing that got spawned in are 2 fiery bulblexes, which yeah, aren't the worst things, but this fucking guy again, wasting my time and not letting me get the frying pan. And I'm surprised Almar didn't pick it up and start caving his own skull in with it, because that's what I'd be doing if I was on PNF 404 right now. I guess one of the few benefits of enemy spam is we can increase our numbers a bit, but we actually lose a good few Pikmin at the end of the day because I tried to break down this gate and a puffy blowhog wasn't having any of this. And just knocked my Pikmin down until the day was over, killing some valuable purple Pikmin. These guys never seem to get spawned on land, they just always camp out of bounds, popping their heads out whenever it's convenient for them. Day 16 also had a good layout for the impact size, along with the weather effect being the earthquake one, which isn't that bad, so I decided to head back there for a second ship parse. Which should have been an absolutely quick process, but my thumb slipped on the dismiss button and this happened. That was obviously a pretty big dent in my Pikmin numbers, but at least it happened in an area where I could easily recover them. To add some salt to the wounds, that guy wasn't even the one with the ship part, it was a flint beetle, a completely harmless enemy. This day could have been done in a good 3 to 4 minutes, but due to that blunder, it ended up taking the full day. Well, at least with that, we have fully completed our first area, and probably the saddest thing was realizing that the chaotic layout I encountered during my previous video on this mod would have actually been a spectacular layout. I mean, look at that, 4 dwarf bulborbs in a row, that's great. I mean, today was a good layout, and we got stuff like a wally hop and a puff stool. And for some reason today, my Pikmin were about as lost as the media, as my Pikmin just kept chasing stuff they weren't supposed to be, even if it was halfway across the map. I'd be trying to focus on one thing, and they're attacking 5 different enemies and getting themselves killed. I mean, considering this counts for a great layout for the impact side, it really shows you how low the bar is for this randomizer. For day 17, I decided to look through the areas, and even if I really wanted to play on the Forest of Hope layout that has 3 decorated cannonballs in a row right next to each other and near a ship parse, there weren't any careening Dirigibugs spawned in, so the stone wall would have been pretty hard to break down. What a shame, I really wanted to play on this amazing and fun layout featuring my favourite enemy. The Forest Naval wasn't much better, so I decided to wrap up the Distant Spring, which was currently experiencing the snap. Hooray. The layout itself was fine, except of course there is a decorated cannonball next to the puzzle. The game has like 100 enemies to pick from, why is it always him? I guess somewhat luckily his boulders get stuck on this slight ledge here most of the time, so he's not the worst, but not exactly ideal either. I'd prefer to see a water wraith at this point. I also found the optimal way to transport yellows here, which is use momentum to quickly throw several of them onto this block, and then they could be drowned over to the beach. I killed them on purpose again, this time I was in a rush so I didn't exactly want to, and they probably wouldn't have lived anyways because I wouldn't have the time to safeguard them. Olimar also has to become a goalie for the ship part, breaking boulders with his fists so the Pikmin don't die until the stupid Pikmin attack the impenetrable beetle instead of doing their job. So I have to get backup forces to continue. Well, we are able to barge through him with minimal difficulties, and it did go much better than I was expecting. And hey, we avoided the snap. Never mind. While drowning 40 yellow Pikmin and the snap don't exactly have a very positive impact on our Pikmin numbers, look at that graph. At least on the bright side, we have fully wrapped up the Distant Spring. We only have 2 options for day 18, the Forest of Hope and the Forest Naval. I just need a decent layout for the Forest of Hope to wrap up the final few parts, not 3 decorated cannonballs all blocking carrying routes on top of a weather effect that drops boulders from the sky. Unfortunately at this point, if we get a bad layout for the areas, we just kinda have to suck it up and try our best, and of course the Forest Naval's layout is equally bad. Just look at the starting base. We also have the mating season weather again, which we briefly witnessed earlier, so we'll be getting harassed by bulborb larvae. Playing on this layout laid out the basic strategy for this area, which is to completely ignore the starting base and just bring ship parts as close as possible to us. The enemies here will respawn on a daily basis, and there's no point in killing them off every single day, because that will just waste time, and the section closest to most of the ship parts is usually not even a quarter as bad as the starting base. So sticking there is usually good. I don't think I had much confidence for today, as I brought a pretty minuscule selection of Pikmin, but it ended up working alright as we got 2 pairs of Bulbmen, and I decided to work at a snail's pace. Thankfully, most of the Bulborb larvae also got stuck while trying to get to us, so they weren't much of an issue. The enemy layouts are becoming so fried that a smoky prog spawning in as the boss fight is actually a good thing, because you can lead him to the base and have the Gatling Groink gun gang blow his brains out and make him drop the part near your base. Let me repeat that, a smoky prog getting spawned in is actually a good thing. That's how far gone we are from normal Pikmin. Him getting spawned in also cut off this big section here that had a large number of enemies, as if you remember from last time, the game counts some plants as enemies. So this place is just absolutely rammed, and skipping it is very helpful. At the end of the day, I kill a few weak enemies so they don't respawn tomorrow, and we did technically get 2 ship parts, but I don't plan on fully collecting any until our final day here. The Forest of Hope was a bit dodgy today, and yet again, no Dirigibugs, so it's back to the Forest Naval for day 19. We only have 11 days left, technically 10 if we don't get the final area unlocked, so I'm starting to get a bit worried, and the 30-day limit is actually having a bit of an impact again. Today wasn't that interesting, but we did make some good progress. Aside from the starting base and this fiery Bulblax who moved way too fast, the enemy layout was pretty good. We were able to grab the water treasure with basically no difficulties and didn't even have to fight any of the enemies in the water, and the usual bread bug got replaced with a yellow Wollihop, which made his part pretty easy to get to. A Gulix did spawn in, but I saw it coming from a mile this time, and aside from that, this day wasn't too interesting. If you ignore the really intimidating starting base, the Forest Naval doesn't actually seem to be that bad. On to day 20, and we have 10 days left. The Forest of Hope kind of spoke for itself today, so back to the Forest Naval, which had the rock weather effect. And that would have been really disruptive for the Libra puzzle, which is what I wanted to try do today, but I changed plans. Instead, I used our careening Dirigibug bomb rock generator to destroy every single stone wall near us, making the area much easier. The decorated Cannonball cannot even accept the smallest of defeats for this mod. He falls off this ledge, which I thought would render him harmless, but then he just starts making his boulders warp up the ledge. There just isn't any winning with this guy. Then when that stopped working for him, the game just got angry and tried to cave the Dirigibug's skull in with a rock. Like, can we calm down for just one day? I was expecting to get nothing done after farming bomb rocks and breaking down walls, but I did manage to reach the boss arena, and the boss ended up being a rather frail pileated snagret who I could actually fight with my small number of yellow Pikmin. The rocks falling from the sky actually made for a pretty good gimmick for the fight as well, and after he's defeated, he drops a jelly-filled donut. Maybe a bit too jelly-filled, why do they weigh that much? The Forest of Hope was undergoing the snap, but we actually got lucky and it triggered immediately, so it killed 0 Pikmin and cleared up some enemies. Along with that, the enemy layout isn't too shabby, so I decided now is the time to try and wrap up the Forest of Hope. Though I'm not letting this distract me from the fact that I got attacked before I could even make any inputs at all. We've had a pretty low number of Pikmin due to them constantly being willed down and having no opportunities to get them back up, so I took some time to grow up some Pikmin at the cost of some time, which made us unable to fully clear the area, only getting 2 out of the 3 remaining ship parts. Not really an interesting day, as there wasn't too much to do here, but at least we got some progress done. And of course, day 22 returned to the trend of the Forest of Hope's layout being bad, and it was still undergoing the snap, and I couldn't really risk losing that many yellows for the upcoming Libra puzzle. So I went back to the Forest Naval to actually do the Libra puzzle and get a pretty abhorrent starting layout that I can't immediately ignore because it's definitely not ignoring me. This place is also experiencing the snap, but if we are quick enough, it should not matter. The Libra puzzle was what I was dreading the most, because I already knew from vanilla Pikmin 1 that this small section can be an absolute pain due to the enemy spawns. And this randomizer has even less rules for spawning enemies, so it could be a complete nightmare, but it actually ended up being the easiest part of the randomizer by a long shot. All of the enemies were weak, and the part I was dreading the most, which was the randomized ship part for the Libra, actually didn't matter at all because purple Pikmin can cheese the entire puzzle. I'll take this as an official apology for what happened with the Libra puzzle in our Deathless Pikmin 1 randomizer. I was on an absolute roll. I was able to actually collect the parts due to our base being mostly clear because we were kind of forced to clear it, and because of the stone walls we broke down. I even started trying to get extra ship parts. Then I remembered today was indeed the snap, which hadn't happened yet, so I immediately got the fuck out of there. The good news is that those were the last 2 real out-of-the-way ship parts, so unless I'm a complete bumbling fool, it should be impossible for me to lose, which is great. I was actually starting to get worried I'd have to play through this twice. I didn't really have to worry about yellow deaths anymore since we already got the 3 parts we need them for, so it did not matter if the Forest of Hope's layout was good or not. But thankfully it was good even despite it being the darkness. The Croning Dirigibug finally showed up so I could easily break down the wall, and at the end of the day I amass a hefty amount of white Pikmin and flower them up. This is so I can get the ship parts in the Forest Naval without having to worry about clearing up the base that much, as the white Pikmin should be able to outspeed most of the enemies. The Forest of Hope is finally fully complete after holding off on it for a good while, and for pretty good reasons as well. Now for the final 2 days I spent in the Forest Naval, there wasn't much the game could throw at us until we reached the final trial, as I had stockpiled all of my ship parts close enough to the base and the white Pikmin could ignore most enemies. We even got a decorated cannonball that could actually be killed due to a cannonball larva whose boulders didn't disappear into thin air. That was very euphoric after putting up with his nonsense for 23 days now. Well, we're currently doing a pretty dull day, consisting mostly of just collecting some treasures. Let's talk about what we did not see in the randomizer. First of all, the beady longlegs never showed up for the 3rd randomizer now. Is he just gonna stay on sick leave forever? Second of all, there was a cool weather effect that I was unfortunately spoiled about, but actually getting spoiled was fortunate as it wouldn't be in the video if I never knew of it, as it never showed up. It either only shows up if more enemies is turned off and you are playing with only Pikmin 1 enemies, or the randomizer just didn't want me having any fun for this challenge at all. It's called the Dimensional Rift, and let's see what happens when we load up an area with it. Yeah, it makes Petey Piranha, also known as the MVP of baseball, show up instead of one of the usual boss fights, complete with his theme song. This isn't half-assed either, it's a fully developed boss fight with several attacks. If you throw Pikmin near his mouth, he will eat them, so you have to aim towards his stomach, but you have to be careful of him shaking them off with his body or wind tornadoes, as he can be knocked into these elemental pools he spits out. It's actually a pretty difficult boss fight as well, I did struggle with him a bit. He also wriggles around after death. Well, while we were busy looking at that, Olimar is busy on day 25 wrangling off a Gulix who is blocking our final ship part needed to access the final area. This guy was more difficult than the boss we actually fought in the arena. He keeps freaking out and doing these bait and switch pounces. Why has his AI gotten better in the randomizer? Eventually he's gone and we can book it with the sushi, which is absolutely critical to making the ship work. And we have fully wrapped up 4 areas and collected 29 ship parts. Now it's time to finish this off for good at the final trial. Ugh. I always underestimate this area on every randomizer, but this is just too far. Just listen to the game audio. What has happened to the fire puzzle? How am I even meant to do this anymore? The word unplayable would be a fucking compliment. Well, at least at this point in the game, Pikmin deaths don't exactly matter and we have 4 days to spare, so we can just brute force our way through it. It's hard to even get Pikmin out of the onion without risk of them getting killed, and we definitely cannot leave them just casually lounging at base. Yet again, we have to do this at a snail's pace, slowly chipping away at these bridges, which remember have twice as much health. I also go looking for a way to cheese the fire puzzle, as we can't exactly do it the intended way. If you throw some Pikmin up here, you can lead them to the box, which deals with the fire puzzle, and now we only have the stone wall to deal with, which needs bombs. I go get some yellow Pikmin, and there is a puff stool next to the puzzle, but he should be harmless. Guys, we don't have all day, pick up the fucking bombs. Of course they just get stuck in the pipe doing nothing, and the harmless puff stool runs over to the blues and brainwashes them at the very end of the day. So that's like 40 Pikmin killed in one fell swoop. Well, we're on day 27, this should be the final day. Today's weather is the rain of rocks and the base looks like this. Can we just have a break, please? How exactly am I even meant to get any Pikmin out of the onion, let alone bring them anywhere? There's like 3 Gatling growing spawned in at once, all following me. They're pretty good at aiming their shots at me, but not at any of the other enemies. And of course, the second you try to get the groinks to do anything mildly helpful, like break down a stone wall, they suddenly lose all interest in following you. Eventually we get Pikmin House, and this careening dirigibug, our best friend, gives us some bombs, and one of the groinks finally lends a helping hand. And now it's time to face the final boss, the culmination of our journey. We went through many hardships over 27 days, but now we have reached the final hurdle. We're gonna need all of our skill for this one. Great ending. Yes, Pikmin, the carrying route is safe, it's fine, just stop overreacting. My Deliveroo driver cycles here every day and he said it's hunky-dory, just keep moving, it's fine. Okay, we finally collected our final ship part, which is Olimar's bottom set of teeth. Okay. And we have finally completed the randomizer. Is the Pikmin Squared randomizer fun? Yes. Is the Pikmin Squared randomizer fun when you play with all of the settings turned on? Not really. As I said with the Deathless Pikmin 1 randomizer, just do these normally and play them normally. These challenges can be brutal, especially this one. I shit you not, doing the entire Pikmin 1 randomizer Deathless was easier than playing through this one normally, which is an absolute testament to how difficult this one is. You just straight up do not get a break for the entire thing. We played for 27 days and none of those were easy. We capped off our playthrough with a total of 30 ship parts in a total of 27 days, and we had 607 Pikmin deaths. That's gonna get Olimar trialed for genocide when he returns to Hakates. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe for high quality Pikmin videos weekly, or else the decorated cannonball will show up in your fridge.